Let's dive right into this explainer. I want you to take a second and think. What immediately comes to mind when you hear the word Kuwait? Now, if you're like most people, your brain probably instantly jumps to vast, sun-baked deserts and, immense, almost unfathomable oil wealth. And sure, those are definitely elements of the country's story. But what if I told you that focusing only on the oil means you're missing out on some of the most fascinating history, culture, and absolute human resilience on the planet? Well, today, we are going to completely shatter that stereotype and look at the real Kuwait.
To kick things off, let's test your global knowledge with a quick trivia question. What is the most valuable currency in the world? Go ahead, take a guess. You might be thinking, oh, it's got to be the British pound, or maybe the euro, or perhaps you're leaning toward the US dollar. Well, prepare to have your expectations completely flipped.
Boom! It's the Kuwaiti dinar. No joke, one single Kuwaiti dinar is consistently worth more than $3, making it the highest valued currency unit on Earth. For a relatively small country tucked away in the Arabian Gulf, that is a staggering economic footprint. I mean, it's a massive global flex from a really tiny geographic space. So it makes you wonder, right? How did this small nation build such incredible global connections and wealth? Was it just a lucky break, striking oil in the 20th century? Actually, not even close. That brings us to Section 1, Ancient Layers and Seafarers. The very name Kuwait actually derives from the word kud, which simply means a small fort or a fortified settlement. So yeah, it's a surprisingly humble origin. They started as a tiny, highly strategic coastal port. We aren't talking about a sprawling empire here. It was just a practical, fortified haven for people living right on the edge of the desert and the sea. But from that one small fort, a massive network grew. Long before the very first drop of commercial oil was ever discovered, this settlement was already a bustling, critical hub for maritime trade. Kuwait was famous for its master shipbuilders and its daring pearl divers. They built these incredible wooden ships called dhows, and Kuwaiti merchants used them to cross the vast Indian Ocean. We're talking about really intricate trade routes linking India, East Africa, the wider Arabian Peninsula, and Iraq. They were literally global networkers centuries ago. And you know what? The history goes back even further than that. Just off the coast is Failaka Island, which is essentially a giant archaeological layer cake. This tiny island preserves traces of the ancient Dilmun culture, and get this, even Hellenistic settlements from the ancient Greeks. There are ancient temples and burial remains sitting right there in the Gulf. It served as a critical connection point linking the Gulf to ancient Mesopotamia and Bahrain. So knowing they have this deeply rooted, ancient history, we kind of have to ask, how on earth did they survive the harsh, unforgiving realities of their physical environment?
Let's look at Section 2, a desert state's lifeline.
Okay, so we all know about their plentiful oil infrastructure. But here is a wild fact. Kuwait has almost zero permanent natural freshwater. None. So while oil might be their economic engine, their massive, incredibly complex water desalination networks are their literal life support. In a harsh climate like this, water infrastructure isn't just a basic utility. It's a critical, everyday survival mechanism that is just as vital as any of their famous oil rigs. Which brings us to one of the greatest design reveals in modern architecture. I'm sure you've seen photos of the Kuwait Towers. They look like futuristic sculptures, right? These beautiful, glittering spheres rising up into the sky. Well, guess what? They aren't just architectural decoration. They were actually built as an incredibly practical solution to that extreme water scarcity. They are highly advanced water towers, a vital part of the distribution system that just organically evolved into the nation's most recognizable icon. Talk about form meeting function perfectly. But despite all this rapid, shiny modernization, the core identity of the people themselves remains deeply anchored in the past.
Let's move on to Section 3, Nomadic Roots and Identity.
Modern desert life in Kuwait is incredibly vibrant. It's not just some thing of the past. Bedouin memory is actively lived out today. When the weather finally cools down, the famous camping season begins. Families literally leave their glass skyscrapers behind and head out into the open desert. Camel culture and massive open desert gatherings are active, vital parts of modern Kuwaiti social life. It's exactly how they reconnect with their heritage and with the land itself. And this powerful connection is beautifully preserved in their art, specifically traditional al-Sadu weaving. This is practiced by Bedouin women using natural fibers in these stunning geometric patterns. But here's the real secret. It's not just pretty fabric. It actually acts as a living visual record. The designs encode the stories of desert life, the camels, the tents, the constant movement, and the very identity of the tribes. It's literally tribal memory woven straight into textile. Now, alongside that desert heritage is the profound spiritual identity of the nation, beautifully epitomized by the Grand Mosque. As Kuwait's absolute largest landmark, it blends these vast, awe-inspiring prayer halls with the most intricate Islamic geometry you can possibly imagine. Its central location and its monumental architecture serve as another vital, non-oil pillar of what it actually means to be Kuwaiti today.
Which leads us to Section 4, Rebuilding a Resilient Skyline. So let's pivot to the modern era, because we honestly cannot truly understand Kuwait today without understanding its incredible endurance. I want you to think about this. What happens when a nation must essentially rebuild from scratch? It's a terrifying thought, isn't it? But it's exactly the severe existential challenge this entire country faced at the dawn of the 1990s. The really dark days of the 1990 Iraqi invasion brought unprecedented, heartbreaking destruction to the country. But following the 1991 liberation, the Kuwaiti people didn't just quickly repair things, they completely reconstructed their institutions, their public life, and their physical infrastructure. The whole shebang. It was a massive, fiercely defiant act of rebuilding straight from the ashes.
So the next time you see a picture of the glittering modern skyline of Kuwait City, I challenge you to look at it differently. That skyline shouldn't just evoke an assumption of easy petroleum riches. It is actually a physical manifestation of sheer survival. It tells a story of memory, of fighting tooth and nail for a homeland, and of hard-won resilience. Every single skyscraper there is a testament to a nation that absolutely refused to be erased.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Kuwait is where a tiny currency became the strongest in the world. It is much more than oil. It is an enduring crossroads of sea, sand, ancient Greek temples, ingenious water towers, and an absolutely unshakable human spirit. So, I leave you with this. Knowing what you know now about their ancient maritime roots and their gritty modern survival, how does that completely change the way you view the power dynamics of the modern Middle East? Keep exploring, keep questioning those stereotypes, and I'll see you in the next explainer.